So good morning, everyone. And for those in different time zones, good afternoon, good evening, and good very late night for one of the panelists. So welcome to the September RSE Worldwide session. And uh, uh, today we have a gathering of panelists from across the world who are representing the research software engineering chapters in their own regions and territories. And we will be discussing a topic that is pertinent for worldwide collaboration among the panelists, and the audience is welcome to ask questions, have suggestions, and participate in the entire conversation using the Slido chat. The link for that is in the comments, is in the Zoom chat. Before we go ahead and before we introduce the panelists, I would like to present a video, which is a short message from the existing chapters across the world, existing RSE chapters, and then we can go through a round of introduction and then begin the discussion. So if the video can be played, please.
Hi, my name is Sandra Gesing. I'm a senior scientist at the Discovery Partner Institute at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And I'm the co-chair of the steering committee of the US RSE. I'm excited to be a co-chair with Shashank Harvey and Gareth Jones of the RSE Worldwide initiatives of the SeptembRSE conference. The International Day will take place on September 22nd, and we will have representation of at least 7 RSE chapters, which is exciting, from down under, from Australia and New Zealand to the UK to Europe, with Germany, the Netherlands, Nordic RSE, and US RSE and Canada. The program includes 2 panels. One topic is about lessons and challenges of promoting the cause of RSE. And the topic of the other one is decided by participants and by audience. So if you contact us until September 14th, you can suggest topics. And the chapters have prepared short videos of 2 to 3 minutes. You can watch at the Worldwide booth, which will be shown before each panel. So we know, of course, that there is a challenge with the time zones, because SeptembRSE takes place during the UK time in the morning and the afternoon. So we will record also the panels and the sessions so that you can watch it asynchronously. And we are looking forward to seeing you at the International Day to lively discussion. Thanks. Bye.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jan Dietrich from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research in Germany and one of the founding members of the DRSE Society. And I'm here to give you a brief update of the status of the German chapter. For those of you who don't know us yet, here's some info, some milestones we had. So DRSE was founded in 2016 as a follow-up to the UK RSE conference this year. Then in 2018, we were able to register as a charitable society in Germany as the DRSE Verein. In 2019, we had the first German RSE conference in Potsdam with around 200 participants. And in May 2020, we were able to publish the first position paper of the DRSE Society with the topic of sustainable research software in Germany and beyond. So currently we have in Germany 4 regional chapters. The society has currently around 15 paying members, but overall the community is much bigger, with around 550 subscribers at the moment on the RSE mailing list, as well as 800 followers on the Twitter channel. Main topics at the moment are twofold. On one hand, it's basically bringing RSE on the national agenda in Germany. This happens, for instance, in the context of the building of a national research data infrastructure in Germany, as well as in trying to bring the software topic into different guidelines, such as the DFG guidelines on good scientific practice, which now focus much more on software as they did before. And the other topic is mapping and linking the German RSE community, which is at the moment still quite fragmented. So that means on one hand, surveying what's there, trying to understand where are the RSE sitting and what are they doing. And the other thing is bringing them together in different meetings. So for instance, we had this year the first DERC group leader meeting, and there are the regional chapter meetings. In terms of conferences, there won't be a dedicated DERC conference in the next time, but there will be a dedicated RSE track on the Software Engineering Conference 22 in Germany, and more information about this is also coming soon. So thanks everyone. So please get in contact with us if we are happy to hear from you. Bye.
Hi, my name is Carlos Martinez. I'm here on behalf of the Dutch Research Software Engineering chapter, NLRSE, and I want to talk to you about the activities that we do in our chapter. So in the beginning, NLRSE was founded in April 2017. It was initially sponsored by the Netherlands Design Center and by ePlan. And we have a core team of volunteers who organizes all the activities of our network. At the moment, we have more than 200 members from over 30 institutes across the Netherlands, from the southern Maastricht all the way to the northern Groningen. And with the Netherlands being a small country, that means that people can connect quite easily and commute easily for events organized at any venue. Some of our activities, we have a monthly newsletter, we have regular meetups which are aimed for RSEs to share their expertise and network with each other, and which cover very diverse topics ranging from legal aspects of open science, for example, and to more technical topics such as using Jupyter notebooks for reproducible research. And in 2019, we organized our first NLRSE conference. Upcoming events, we have our first roadshow event coming on the 14th of October, which is a distributed event where many local venues will connect to central content, and we will launch our new website then. And we have also the elections of our core team coming up in November, the results being published in December, and the new core team will take office from January next year. And if you want to reach out to us, you can find information about our meetups in our website, and you can reach out to the core team by email, and you can also find us on Twitter. Thank you.
The Nordic Research Software Engineer Association, tada, we are now officially an association. Well, it will be effective in October 2021. Here is a website where you can see all our activities, and you can follow us on Twitter. The list of official members from the board, and of course, some activities. We will participate to the Worldwide RSE survey in 2021. If you want to contribute to our blog series, you can contact us. And do not miss out any of the upcoming events. We have a weekly virtual RSE coffee break, very informal meetings, every Thursday morning at 9 CET. We have bi-weekly virtual Nordic RSE meetings where we discuss about RSE Association and the activities. We have also bi-weekly research software hours. This is live stream, and we have this is really an online stream about scientific computing and research software. This is very informal, every 2 weeks, and we explore new tools. This is super nice if you want to contribute. We have monthly research software seminar series. This is much longer, and we have started from August 2021. We can go in depth with some subjects and some topics. If you want to contribute, just let us know. And we will, of course, organize and be part of this upcoming International RSE Day in October on the 14th. We have officially a Nordic RSE YouTube channel where you can find all the recordings of all the talks and all the research software hours and the seminar series you may have missed. And of course, talk to us, and you can join the community with a code refile noise tulip chat. Thank you, and see you soon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Cosden, and on behalf of the USRSE Steering Committee and the entire organization, I'm here just to give a brief overview of USRSE and highlight what we've been up to recently. So we're a community-driven organization with individual members who broadly come from one of these three groups. So RSEs themselves, people interested in RSE careers, and those who consider themselves RSE allies. We have a four-pronged mission focused on building a community of these professionals, advocating for the increasingly important role that RSEs play in research ecosystem, providing a variety of resources to a number of different groups, and actively working to improve diversity within our profession. So while we're focused on the US and organize events in US-friendly time zones, we certainly welcome the participation of anyone from the international community, free to join and participate. When you join, you subscribe to our bi-monthly newsletter, get an invitation to join our Slack workspace where most of the discussion happens. And we enthusiastically encourage new channel creation around whatever topics might be of interest. We have a few more formal internal working groups that have formed, focused on RSE education and training, a group redesigning the USRSE website, and a DEI specific working group. New groups are welcome to form. These have all started as a result of a small group of like-minded people interested in the same topics. So, posted a number of events already this year, including a career symposium, which you can find on our YouTube channel, a panel at the PERC 21 conference. So as I mentioned, the DEI working group has initiated this new speaker series with quarterly presentations from distinguished speakers on the topic. Hosted our second annual workshop in May, complete with talks, breakout sessions, all captured on our YouTube channel. You can go see what we were talking about. We have monthly community calls on topics that have been voted on by the community. The recordings aren't public, they're unlisted. You can find them on Slack in case you missed it. New this year, we have an official fiscal sponsor with the Open Collective Foundation that allows us to operate as a financial entity within OCF. So for the rest of this year and next year, we'll be busy continuing to raise awareness both of USRSE, but maybe more importantly and more generally, the RSE role. We'll continue our community calls. We'll have our annual general meeting in early December, where we'll get to meet candidates for our steering committee and have our formal election shortly thereafter. So thanks very much for your time, attention, a special thanks to the organizers, and I look forward to the panel discussion soon.
Hello, my name is Marianne Weinzier, and I'm a trustee of the Society of Research Software Engineering here in the UK. The RSE community here in the UK has come a long way from the time when the term RSE was first coined almost a decade ago, over the first funded RSE fellowships, the first RSE conference, and the transformation of the RSE Association into the professional RSE Society. Our membership is now at over 500 members, and we have a large active online community with a lot of different RSEs coming from different backgrounds and different technical specialisms. Here at SeptembRSE, we will present a number of initiatives we've worked on over the past year, such as our RSE mentoring scheme, work on appreciating the diversity of the RSE role, and the launch of our special interest groups on regional RSE groups. Over the past year, our focus was a lot on improving governance and writing policies for our RSE society. In the coming year, one of our main focuses will be to work on EDI in the RSE society and the RSE community. If you're interested to hear more, please head over to our website, follow us on Twitter, or grab one of us trustees at the society booth here at SeptembRSE. So hope to see you there.
So with this very nice round of videos from the participating chapters, I would like to officially start the panel discussion. And to do that, I would first invite Heidi from Australia and New Zealand RSE chapter to introduce herself and the chapter.
Hi everyone. My name's Heidi. I'm the data platform manager for ServiceTag. I'm also a member of the Australian New Zealand chapter. Very excited to be here this evening. And our chapter has been able to be attending a number of Birds of a Feather session this year. The most recent one was the New Zealand conference, and we were able to present a Birds of a Feather on metrics, which was very exciting for us. And we're also hoping to present another Birds of a Feather around a similar topic at eResearch Australasia in October this year. Lovely to meet everyone, and looking forward to answering some of the questions that have been coming through on the slide.
Yeah, I can see that there's a buzz of activity on the Slido channel. Jan from the German RSE, please, if you would like to introduce.
Yeah, hi everyone, now also live. So I'm Jan Dietrich from the German RSE chapter. And I'm also quite happy to be here and yeah, looking forward to the discussions.
Carlos from the Netherlands.
Hi, my name is Carlos Martinez from the Dutch RSE chapter, NLRSE. Yeah, I'm just very excited to hear what other RSE chapters are struggling with. What are your challenges? What are your goals, aspirations? How can we, and really, how can we build like a better collaboration between all the chapters to have like a more international RSE community, especially with our German neighbors? I mean, it might make sense to organize more things together. So yeah, I'm just curious to hear about everybody's.
Yeah, definitely. The two panel discussions are exactly on those issues. So yes, from the Nordic RSE. Radovan or Jano?
Okay, maybe I can start. So we are two people representing Nordic RSE. My name is Radovan Bast, calling from Northern Norway. And together with me is Jano from Finland. And I'm so excited to be here and so nice to see all of you and so much looking forward to discuss how we can collaborate more and better, and really looking forward to discuss these questions. Everybody.
From the US RSE, I believe we have Sandra, who is also on the other side of the team. So yeah, Sandra.
Thanks, Shashank. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's, by the way, 4 a.m. and 20 minutes for me only, so therefore I just got out of the shower. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I have the US RSE had this morning on, and I'm really excited to see all the different chapters and how we can then collaborate around the world. So looking forward to the discussions.
And then from the home team, we have Marion and Matt, who are from the UK Society of RSE. Marion, Matt.
Matt, do you want to go, as I was already in the video?
Sure. So yeah, Marion's already introduced herself. So she's given an introduction to where she stands. I'm Matt Williams. I'm one of the trustees, along with Marion, of the Society of Research Software Engineering, and I'm based here in the UK.
Hello everyone, I'm Shashank. I am a member of the Society of RSCs in the UK, and me, Gareth, and Sandra have been working towards organizing the September RSE Worldwide event. Since Sandra is representing US at the moment, it would be Gareth and me who would be bringing forward that discussion. Gareth.
Hi everyone, I'm Gareth. I work in Bristol with Matt and Christopher, and I'm helping organise the RSE Worldwide today. I'm really excited to meet everyone from different places around the world, and be really interested to see what we have to say and how we can help sort of build connections between the different RSE chapters. That would be really nice.
So the topic for discussion this morning, or in your respective time zones, for the first panel is increasing cross-border collaboration. I can see that there are questions regarding building an RSE society or association in your respective territory, and we would be dealing with that in the second session. But since there is a problem with time zones, if you really feel like that you want to discuss a very pertinent topic, we can just repeat the topic in both the sessions, because not everyone who is present in this session will be able to participate in the next one. And we might very well have a different audience in the next session. So as for this session, in terms of increasing cross-border collaboration, all the chapters and societies are coming up with resources, with job letters, with job boards, newsletters, designing web templates, lesson plans, guiding policy decisions, and coming up with job descriptions. We saw that Germany came up with a position paper. So does UK society and the and various institutions over here. So all the societies are working very hard towards the goal of making the cause of RSE visible and highlight it in the research communities around in their own regions. Of course, there has been collaboration all along the way since day one, and now we are in the fortunate position that we have an international council of RSEs, which is organizing an international day. This panel discussion is a way of complementing it, and we would like to highlight what are the resources that your corresponding chapters have at the moment that you can share, and what is it that you would like to be shared from other RSE chapters? What's the expertise that you would like to share, or resources essentially? So the floor is open to all of the panelists, and you can begin. So that's also the first question on Slido, which is what expertise is missing in your country/chapter, and what could you provide to others? Anyone who would like to go first?
I can go first. So I don't think that we exactly know which knowledge expertise is missing at the moment, because we did fast grow in the last 2 years. We have over 800 members on Slack, which is great for us. But we still have to find ways how to do more with working groups, or how to support more. For example, I really love the activities in the UK with a peer review of code. We don't have activities like that yet, but we would love to learn from that. And the other thing is, we suggest these working groups. So, and as soon as there are enough people and enough critical mass to have regular meetings on topic, then we try to establish them. So at the moment, it's still finding out what is the best way And yeah, we still have to find out more about our community. We have this working group on education and training. I think that will have results that we could maybe answer more in the future. But at the moment, it's still a finding process. Let's say it like this. But we are happy if people from outside the US would like to join the working groups like on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's really going well in that working group, but I know, of course, the time zones different are a little bit a problem.
So, Carlos?
Yeah, I think I would just like to add to what Sandra said, because for us it's a little bit the same, that some of the models and formats for events that we organize were greatly inspired by what they do in the UK, right? So a lot of our meetups are similar in format to what we see at the collaborations workshop. So we're copying a lot from that. And I think that there's a lot of potential for reuse of these formats and sharing some expertise on how do you organize a local meetup, which topics do you touch on, how do you organize, I don't know, software carpentry lessons. And I think there's a lot of potential for collaboration in those areas of which type of events and with which content, which format. So of course, in the Netherlands, we've been running a few different events that we're more than happy to help share on reproducible research, software, and things like that. So that's also something that would be, we're more than happy to share our experiences, our expertise in those areas. So yeah, I think I just want to say I agree with everything Sandra said.
So, any more comments? Rajavan.
Yes, I can comment on this question from the Nordic RSE perspective. And so what we are missing and struggling with as we grow now is how to promote, how to advertise, how to reach people. Also in light of GDPR, the European Data Processing Directives, I think there we can really improve, because there are many cool things happening, but we know that there are many people working on RSE or interested in RSE, but they don't know about us. We could use expertise from other chapters on how to reach the community. What we could provide, I think one thing that we are good at is training, because the way Nordic RSE has grown, it has grown out of a training collaboration. So to do cross-border training, online training, carpentry style, I think this is something we could help with and connect. Thanks.
Jan?
Yeah, just to add to that what Radovan said, I think it's also in our situation in Germany quite similar, that we could use some expertise on basically how to get the whole community together, because it's still a situation that, I mean, we have a lot of RSEs and people which are already involved in the RSE, but we know that there are a lot of other researchers out there which we would probably count as RSEs, but which haven't heard about our activities there, and to really get an idea of, I mean, if there are any ideas of how to better approach them and how to better include them in the process. And also, I think what would be also useful to have some guidance in order to get more structure or more professionalism in some processes. So I think we are still in a very early stage, in the sense that we are still learning a lot of things, what's happening. And I know that other chapters, I mean, in particular, I think the UK chapter is quite advanced in basically thinking about things like having some kind of career perspectives for RSEs, having some kind of idea how an RSE could be best incorporated into an institute or something like that. And this is still a bit more unstructured, I think, in Germany. And in terms of things where believe we could provide something is, I think every chapter has probably already did create workshops where everybody could learn from, and I think we also have there some formats which could be useful, and also with the society which we have, I mean, there we also gained some experience in how to set up something like that, some legal entity which you can then use for this RSE work.
So I think I will pass the ball regarding GDPR and advertising to UK RSE, because when the society started, and even now we follow GDPR in the UK. So any perspectives on that? How to publicize while while respecting privacy and building a network?
I can say a little something on that. So I think one of the benefits that we have as the society is that since we were here early, we've got more of a history of being able to collect a large community of people who aren't necessarily in the UK, all the way around the world, who are interested in the movement. And so we've got a lot of people on our newsletter who have said, yes, I want to hear about everything to do with RSE, send me anything you want. And that gives us a lot of ability to distribute information about all sorts of events that are going on. It gives us that platform to share events that are happening, not just in the UK, but internationally. I think continuing that thought, I think that one of the things that we have occasionally struggled with as the society, and at the point that we're growing at the moment, is around these kind of legal issues. We are all trustees on the board, RSEs. We are not lawyers. We're not legally trained. And so making sure that we have the expertise to understand exactly what our requirements are without having to constantly go and seek external advice, which we do when we need to, but that ends up, adding to the cost of things and detracts from us being able to fund, exciting events to further the careers of our members more directly. So I think that as we've grown, we've had to become more formal, which is good because it gives us the mechanisms to be able to include our membership and all this sort of stuff in a more understood way. But it does sometimes slow you down if you don't have all the tools at your disposal to understand exactly what the law says on this and that and how to interpret it and so on. Luckily, with things like GDPR, it's consistent across the whole of Europe, at least. And so there's lots of information we could share between groups based in Europe. How long the UK is going to stay with GDPR, I don't know, but hopefully that things that are important in there will be similar between them. So we can share information on that front as well.
So to summarize, I think having a more formal structure with consent can help. Carlos, I would like to ask you about forming an institute of RSEs. So as far as I understand, the e-Science Center in the Netherlands is an institute of RSE. How did it come along? Because that is, I think, what Jan wanted to ask about. How did you formalize an institute where RSEs can serve the region?
Thank you for the question. Actually, it was kind of the other way around. So it's not that the RSE movement managed to create the Netherlands e-Science Center. It was the other way around, that the Dutch government decided to invest some funds into having like a pool of engineers that would work on, the e-science stuff. And they created this institute before it was called an RSE institute. And I think the e-Science Center has been around for about 10 years to do the software part of science. And it wasn't, when they created the institute, the Science Center, it wasn't called RSE. Years later, some of my colleagues who were already working at the Science Center went to the first RSE conference and said, hey, that's exactly what we're doing. Why are we not called RSEs? Why is our job description not an RSE? And then they started the Dutch chapter of RSE as a sort of like spin-off from the Science Center to say, okay, yes, we are RSEs. Everybody at the Science Center is an RSE, but actually there's RSEs working at universities, at libraries, at different places, and we should create like a community of people, including everybody who works at the Science Center, but also the people who do similar jobs in different organizations. So in that sense, the NLRSE sort of like grew from the Science Center, inspired in the UK RSE. And that means that as an eScience Center, we already have some of this knowledge of, okay, do we have job profiles for RSEs? Yes, we do within the eScience Center, but we want those to be grown for the rest of the Dutch community. So it has helped us so far as a platform, in also in terms of funding the NLRSE network. The Science Center so far has been kind enough to say, yes, we'll pay for all your conference and events and networking opportunities. No problem, we'll secure some part of our budget. I think where it becomes tricky, and we are learning from the UK and from the German RSE, is that NLRSE is not formally a society or a legal body. We're sort of like a network that is kindly sponsored by the Science Center. But going forward, because we're dependent on the Dutch government renewing the Science Center agreement and funding, the NLRSE needs to be stronger and needs to be more independent in a way from the Science Center. So we need to grow beyond the arms of our parents, basically. So I'm not sure if that sort of answers the question. So it's not that the Science Center was formalized through the NLRSE, but it was the other way around. So.
Yeah, nice to know a bit of history and like how fortunate that the Dutch government like it dawned upon them that they need somewhere to do the eScience stuff, as you say it. Yeah. In other chapters, for example, in Australia or Australia and New Zealand, do you have positions for like that are advertised as RSE, and or is it people who so is it a formal position as an RSE, or it's more that people identify themselves as RSE, and how does that fit into coming up with job descriptions and yeah, sharing it with other societies? Would you know?
Thanks for the question. So it's a very, very interesting question, and one that we tried to answer at a conference just over a year ago, so 2019. We had a session where we asked members and people who were interested at eResearch Australasia what kind of job descriptions they'd had and what kind of roles they'd had, and where they thought it might fit, were they RSEs or not. A very large range of position descriptions fit in people who said that they were doing RSE type jobs, and it's becoming more and more a request that does come through in eResearch around being a research software engineer particularly. I have called myself a research software engineer formally as well in previous roles, but I think we're still working towards amalgamating all of the different position descriptions that are out there, and trying to get, because it's such a varied role as well, we're having a lot of challenges around that. A lot of the people that come to the RSE events, we find are describing themselves as either someone who has a very technical background and has ended up going into a research focus, or someone who's got a really research focused background and has ended up having to learn how to code as part of that. So sort of generalists are often coming through as well. So it's okay. So long story short, we do have some positions advertised as research software engineers. We're trying to encourage that at our various institutions around Australia and New Zealand. It's not a formal position everywhere, but we are working towards doing that.
Very good point about having generalist positions and specialist positions, because that is a major distinction, and especially for job advertisements, that is kind of the boundary line where you see job descriptions that are asking for generalist, and then you see that are asking for specialist, and both of them are sometimes advertised as RSEs, or some other nomenclature. Of course, do we have, and this is again a question to all the panelists, do we have a common job description, or what are the commonalities that we see when we come up with a job description for an RSE? Because yeah, and moving forward, I would also bring the point of having a common job board. So your thoughts on that? Yes, Sandra, please.
I think we don't have a common job description yet. Oh, I don't know about it. I look at examples from the UK and Germany, but the US also, the landscape is a little bit different. So what we do in the US is really looking at existing job description. We have some also, highlights, and we start to help with job descriptions. I think it's a little bit different between the different countries, but we can also, of course, look at the expertise, for example, and help each other with job description. But the landscape also with universities and national labs, for example, is different between the US and Europe and Australia and New Zealand. So I think we can support each other, and we could have a job board together. I can see that for people who also are interested to maybe switch continent, but it's still, there are differences in the landscape for RSEs in the different countries.
Marion?
In the UK, we do have the website of the society, where we have not only UK-based job ads, but generally RSE job ads and also RSE related job ads on there. So, and everybody is welcome to post there. We also have, of course, the job channel in our RSE Slack workspace, which is quite busy. Generally, I feel it's still a lot all over the place. So we do have RSE type jobs advertised as postdoc positions or even PhD positions. There are people also in industry who see themselves as RSEs or who are RSEs. And there are both central RSEs and embedded RSEs at departments and in research groups, but mostly people write their own job description. So there is some discussion going on. So for example, if I want to hire someone, I might talk to someone in another group and asking, okay, how does your job description look like? And so, but still everybody is kind of making their own job description. So maybe having template job descriptions also would help at that place as well.
Okay, Carlos.
Yeah, so about the UK job board, actually we often look, we often look at it for finding jobs in the Netherlands that we then advertise in our monthly newsletter. So I think I'm just going to take this time to say thank you to the Society of RSE, because that helps us a lot to put some of these job positions in our own newsletter. Big disclaimer, we are using your work for making our lives easier, so thank you very much. And about the job descriptions, It's true that it's very difficult to have like a unified job descriptions across countries, and even within the Netherlands, where at the universities there's like a central university job description for all professors have the same job description at the general level. Of course, for somebody who's professor in law and professor in physics, it's one part says physics, one part says law, but we have this a unified job description. And in this unified job description family, there isn't any description for RSEs as such. There's some things that are ICT specialist or scientific programmer or things like that that are sort of RSE, but it doesn't say RSE, and it doesn't combine all the things that RSEs do. And I think this makes it a little bit difficult to come up with like a unified job description. And I think Sandra also said about centralized RSEs and embedded RSEs. Maybe it was Marian, I'm not sure anymore. And that also makes a difference, that we see some people who are working within a department, maybe in the I don't know, physics department, and they have like a very focused, very close to the experiments, very close to the lab type of job. And so we also see people who are like at the central part of the department that are more generic, more generalists, and that they also have a different RSE role. So it makes it very complex. But at the same time, I think that just emphasizes the need that there should be some kind of unified job description for people like that are doing all these diverse type of roles. In the Netherlands, there was also the data stewardship roles, and the data stewards also have some people who are more specialized in one domain, or data stewards that are more generalists. And in the last 2 years, I believe, they have incorporated the data steward job families into the unified university job descriptions. So I think my final my point is that if we can do this for data stewards, I think we should be able to also do it for research software engineers. And so it's something that we're trying to promote and trying to lobby for, but that I think it's going to be a long process as well.
Mm-hmm. Jan?
Yeah, coming back to the International Job Board, I believe that this is something like that is really useful. And I also have to say, similar to Carlos, I think that at least I am also somehow misusing the UK job board somehow a bit as some kind of international job board. So big thanks to the UK society there. And I hope that's okay, how that it suits. At least I'm always posting jobs coming, which we have in a German board as well as in the UK job board. So yeah, I think it's very useful to have this international spot where you can go to, because I think this kind of RSE, a lot of RSE related things are not national, they are international. And if you talk about jobs and research, I mean, people tend to go somewhere else, so having their central source is useful. And I think that goes also beyond jobs. So that I believe a lot of things where we are doing what we are doing, that's really not useful to have then dedicated spaces for the different national chapters or something like that. But there are a lot of topics out there which are, I think, just international, and where it's useful to have some place to put it. It might be resources about teaching, learning, or something like that, or other things. Another example which comes to my mind is just the communication channels. There again, I think the UK Slack is also something which I see as some kind of international RSE Slack, and I'm very happy to have something like that. So really have this kind of places where you can discuss with all RSEs all over the world, and not only with the RSEs in your local chapter. So perhaps just to make the point that I think there are a lot of places in the RSE world where it would be useful to be more international than we might be at the moment.
Matt?
Sure, yeah. So again, coming on that topic of the job descriptions, I think that it's always going to be hard to find some kind of unified job description, especially when you start considering you need to be looking across multiple countries and multiple different situations. I think that the work that has been started around just trying to understand what it is that RSEs do before we can then start formalizing it down into language and categorizing and so on is pretty useful. So I just like to draw the attention to a workshop that Terry Forey is running on Monday about the RSE landscape. I think the more people we can get involved with sharing their perspectives on what they consider to be an RSE, what kind of position they're in, the more we can get an understanding of how we might start to formalize some kind of international definition or spectrum of RSEs. You can't just start from the end. We need to start, I think, by understanding where we are.
I quite like the description, spectrum of RSEs, because that's what we truly are. There is no one thing fits all. Jan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something similar to what you said. I think there were also some discussions I had with some colleagues quite early in the process about, I mean, what is an RSE? And there, I think the important part was that it was said that we should not be too strict in what the definition or also the job description of an RSE is. It should be rather broad, because I think they are very different. I mean, the situations are quite different from university to university and from job to job. So, and I think it's important to have an inclusive description of what we are doing, so that not people feel discouraged to get in touch with us or see themselves as RSEs. So, yeah.
Very well. If I overstep my boundary and propose something grand, because the concept of our RSE also started from a working group, maybe we can come up with the idea of having a working group that would try and at least gather different job descriptions, see the commonalities, and prepare a career ladder that fits the job descriptions and how the career roles would progress in terms of the international context, so that people who are also switching between continents, between countries, and even within a country, they have a clear career path, as well as we just discussed, the UK career board, the job board works very well. So trying to promote it as a more international thing, where you also have different jobs at different levels of seniority, something of that sort, coming out of a working group from people involved over here, or preferably even under the aegis of the International Council of RSEs. I think that can be a great idea to bring their efforts together in terms of jobs and job descriptions and put it together. And if it can be published, then it has some kind of seal behind it, some kind of a weight behind it, which the funding agencies and the research landscape will have something to look up to and to get inspired from when they are framing their job descriptions around the globe. Having said that, I think we should take a 5-minute break, and when we return, we will discuss more about how the International Council operates and how that can be used as a platform for bringing together and sharing of more resources. So Marion has thankfully posted a link to the council. You can have a look in the 5-minute break or stretch your legs, and we will be back at 5 past the hour in the time zone. In 5 minutes, as the clock says on the screen. Great. See you all. So welcome back, everyone. I hope you had the time to stretch your legs. Well, I see there's a very nice discussion that has gone around in the chat during the break, and I would like to pick up on a suggestion that so there's a point that there isn't a common international job description for architects, baristas, and civil engineers, etc. So it might not be possible to have one for RSEs. But there can be a set of professional standards that can be described. And then there is a pointer towards the RSE 2031 discussion that is happening next week, which I'm also looking forward to, where we are going to discuss how the landscape of RSE, the concept of RSE and RSEs in general would look like 10 years down the line. And yeah, that would be also a very interesting discussion, because that is whatever it is in 2031 will definitely partly be a product of the efforts from all the RSE associations. So definitely something we should think about. Also a suggestion to look to have a common collection, if not a standard of all the job descriptions, then a common collection of all the templates that we can have for RSE like roles and RSE roles, and also trying to run some kind of natural language analysis on it. It was one of the suggestions. So yeah, a lot of activity in the chat, and I'm just reading it out because I don't want it to be lost after the discussion discussion ends, and for the benefit of our future YouTube audience, hopefully. Having said that, let's jump to what's the role of the International Council of RSCs. We are fortunate that we have a few panelists who are also on the council. So if they want to have the first go and discuss what's the International Council of RSC is all about, and what's the direction that they are taking. Radovan, please.
Yes, I'm happy to comment on that. So I'm part of the council. And so what is the council? The council is a forum where delegates from different chapters meet. And I think it's actually very similar in the idea, like this panel that we're having right now. So we need to provide a place where worldwide delegates can meet and exchange. It's about exchanging information, like we do here, exchanging expertise. Also maybe lifting some questions that are relevant for other chapters. More concretely, it's about organizing events such as the International RSE Day, October 14. So we need to keep the information flowing. So this council is meeting roughly once a month. So there has been now a bit of a, well, Northern Hemisphere summer break, but so we meet once a month. In the couple of meetings that have happened, there has been also a formalization process, because the forum is open, but it needs to be formal, also to be inclusive and welcoming. So the council has been working on code of conduct, a charter, to formalize its role and its the mission. So hopefully that was an okay answer. So it's really about exchanging knowledge, providing support for new chapters, really similar to what we are doing here today.
Jan?
Yeah, I actually have a question, because I wasn't involved in this process, but I really like that this report is coming. So I would like to understand, I mean, is the council meant more as some kind of coordination between the different chapters, or is it also meant as some place later on to have some kind of shared resources or something like that? For instance, some kind of central website for the international RSE community or something like that? Or is it in which direction, do you know in which direction it will go?
So I hope I answered this correctly. The way I understand it is that it's the main thing is about coordinating, but I think also then providing a common space, common web space, pooling resources. So that's my understanding of where this is heading.
So I think, in other words, trying and formalizing what we have over here as a small discussion in a grander way, and trying to bring together all the chapters. Would that be correct?
Right. So in my understanding, it's not creating like a superstructure. So it's not about hierarchies. It's really about providing an interface and an exchange place. And so if somebody is here who can correct me, I hope I just reflected it correctly.
From the council, do we have? I believe. Oh yeah. Yeah, from the council, I think we only have Radovan at the moment, but in general, I believe all the chapters are already associated in the council and are working together. For the council, I would say that we have the International RSE Day coming together on the October 14th, and I'm looking forward to that as well. That would be a nice occasion to to meet and greet with other RSEs from across the group. I think I will move on to the next question, which is regarding trying to get off a group or chapter. This is the topic for the next session in its totality, but since, as I said, it might not be possible for everyone to attend both the sessions, can we have a quick word, or even a detailed word about your suggestions, quick wins, and things to avoid when you are trying to get a new chapter or RSE group off the ground? I believe there's a small distinction between having a new chapter, because that would be more like a local thing, or a regional or a national level thing, and an RSE group would more be an institutional thing, where you have an institution that starts growing. So for a university to have an RSE unit within themselves. So both of them are important. Both of them are pertinent to the RSEs in general. Let's hear about getting both of them off the ground. Matt.
Sure. So I think that the first thing you need in either of those situations is to find the community that are doing the stuff. You can't just start by you deciding individually, I want to start a chapter or I want to start a group and hope that people will find you. You need to go out, find the people who are doing this stuff, people who are going to benefit from the work you're going to do. And between the group of you, start working out what are your local needs, what are the struggles you have, and so on. So overall, first thing you need to do is just find the people.
Excellent idea. And I think the excellent first step as well. Sandra.
Yeah, I would like to second that. It's like we really did pick up in the US more momentum, and we had a steering committee, we gave ourselves like, okay, let's meet every 2 weeks, let's have a website, let's have a Slack channel, let's give talks about it. So we have seen always a larger uptake of members giving talks at conferences. That people didn't know that there is now something going on. And of course, also, at international RSE events. Yeah, at the beginning, 2 years ago, it was still mostly the UK. But yeah, going out there, find the people, and also try to have a group of people who dedicate themselves maybe for the next 1 or 2 years to do a little bit more. I think that is key, because a lot of people like the idea, but might not have enough time. We all are busy, of course, but it's really, you need a couple of people who feel like, okay, I can dedicate really something on a regular basis, or I can dedicate something for a certain case, like organizing maybe a BOF, maybe a small publication, maybe something like a panel. That helps a lot.
Jan?
Yeah, and from my perspective, besides finding the people, I think it's also important to basically link these people or make the idea of RSE more known in the area before you try to start a chapter. So that would mean, for instance, using existing infrastructure, something like setting up posters for existing conferences or something like that. So if I think back at the time in Germany where I first learned about RSE, it was not that there was some kind of German chapter which I then got in touch and worked with them together. It was that somebody puts up some posters for the UK RSE conference at this time. And that was the first time I learned about it. And because I then could see that there is already something very established in another country and where I could go to the conference, I could first learn about the process before I then started also working in, started to do something here in Germany. And I think that's also very important too. So not to quickly try to set up a chapter if there's nobody around who knows what RSEs are or what this might be good for, but first making some case for RSE and explaining what it is before you start creating a chapter.
Heidi?
Yeah, so reiterating the other points about having to canvass the area and figure out what the appetite is first. The way that we went about doing it was more through the software carpentry. So by doing the software carpentry events, we were able to identify individuals who were really keen to give back to the community and become instructors. We were also able to launch hacky hours to complement them. The hacky hour is what we called it, where you just turned up for an hour at a coffee shop and people would turn up if they had questions and queries. And from that, it really built out for us to this commonality of questions that we had, you know, how do I fit into everything? I've got this skill set and I've got this other skill set. How do I actually fit? I don't seem to fit the research mold and I don't seem to fit the software engineer mold. And that's how it happened for us. It was more of an organic growth. And then by having identified those key individuals that already have shown that they're motivated and interested and passionate about it, that's how we ended up forming our RSE.
Thanks. So again, to summarize, I think we need to find people who are interested, and a good place to go looking for people like that would be already existing communities of practice, such as the software carpentries, and as you mentioned, hacky hours, hackathons, and then try and bring together or try and advertise the idea of being an RSE to them, letting it be more publicly known is also at other conferences such as HPC conferences and things like that, and then bringing them together to form a panel as a quick start to bring them together, and then start as a grassroots movement in that sense. First trying and building the people together, and then forming a chapter / an RSE association. I think we have more input from Jano.
Works. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, I was just going to wrap up the.
Your audio is quite.
Okay, sorry. Maybe this is better.
That's better.
So, okay. I mainly wanted to answer the question about organizing an RSE group as opposed to an RSE chapter, where it, in my experience at least, it's very helpful to have some kind of secure funding, a seed funding to start from. So to try to get institutional buy-in from the beginning. By an RSE group, I mean actually an official group of people working in an RSE job in an institution. So, and one thing that helped convince people at our university that RSEs are actually needed. One good argument was that we talk a lot about diversity, right? It is an important aspect for developing our organization, and RSEs help a lot in that because people come with different skills, and having specialists who can either help them in the areas where they do not necessarily have the skills that most or the well, the majority of the population does, is very helpful. And also having experts who can, in many cases, do a job that requires those skills is very helpful. So that's just one argument that kind of did a large part in selling this and getting some institutional buy-in to get the group started.
Great. I'll come back to that very interesting point. Sandra.
Yeah, I wanted to add, since the question asked also for things to avoid. So what we recognize is that therefore on the website with USRC, we are very careful to make a very inclusive definition who could be interested to join the RSE association or be part of the community, because we got questions at the beginning where people were like, okay, if I'm not an RSE directly, like you define it, can I still join? And that really was like an alarm for us, like, oh, no, we want you to join. It's not, if we have something on the website that feels like that you are not included, then we should change that. And that was something, it's hard to define RSEs because it's, as we talked about already, a real landscape. So now we are on the website, like, if you think you are an RSE, or you want to support RSE, or you work with RSEs, or you manage RSEs, you are at the right place. It's a kind of this message, I think, to be very inclusive, which is really helpful. And to avoid to have a definition on the website. Still, we had these discussions whether we should have a definition at all. But somehow you have to explain what the association is about. So that was our experience, that we were like, okay, we have to be really careful with the wording, which goes also a little bit on the topics Jano had with the diversity and inclusion.
I will. I think. Yeah, I will add to that. That from my first conference in 2019 as an RSE, I got an impression that one identifies as an RSE rather than being handed a title that you are an RSE from this day onwards as a job title. And this was very welcoming and a very inclusive moment for me in my life, where you meet a group of people and then you say, yes, this is exactly what I do, and therefore I also identify as one of them, rather than, oh, this is your job title, and now from this day onwards you are an RSE instead of a postdoc researcher or any of formal titles that we have. With that, I will go back to the point of starting a new group off the ground. So that would be a new research unit, maybe based in a university or in a research lab, or for example, like the Dutch institution, which is, I think, exceptional in the sense that it's an institution of RSEs, which I do not know if any other country has at the moment. Like one main thing that Jano mentioned was having a seed funding. What's the situation like in different regions? Of course, there is a seed funding for the cause in the Netherlands, as we have the eScience Center. What's the situation like in other regions? For example, in Australia, do we have universities trying to establish an RSE unit? I know that, yeah. So let's just go around the panel and has some answers. Heidi.
So we've been using the e-research conferences as a way of getting the word out. We have had quite a bit of interest from the Australian E-Research Organisation, or AERO, as well as ARDC, the Australian Research Data Commons. And they've helped us in regards to being able to provide sort of digital resources for storage of some of our information and that sort of thing. We're not finding people looking for other chapters at the moment. We're more finding people are interested in joining our chapter. And we are finding as well that there is a build of understanding around what we're trying to achieve, especially in the last 18 months, where a lot of organisations have ended up being pushed towards a more digital form of communication. There's been a lot of uptake and a lot more interest in the RSE type approach to things.
Jan?
Yeah, so in Germany, I think it's still a bit unstructured. So I think there's no, or at least I'm not aware of any national seed funding for something like that. And if you look into the different universities or institutions, it's a bit like, I haven't seen any structured approaches yet to basically set up an RSE group in that sense. But what's happening is that due to the changing policies there for publications, or also for good scientific practices and so on, which are now more and more focusing on software, I think even people which are not aware of the RSE as such are aware of that they have to spend more on software development, and they are thinking about different concepts how they can do this. So that could end up in then creating groups which are somehow RSE-like, but are not necessarily tech RSE, and get there some institutional funding for that. Or what happens often is that you just have single people funded for that, and then over time it might grow, and then from the single people's, out of the single people's, groups might be formed. But I think something like that institution goes there and says, okay, we should now have something like a central RSE group. I think that's not happening so much at the moment in Germany.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I think having the initiatives like Open Science Movement and Open Data Movement, they have helped the RSE costs quite a lot, because to handle software and data and research in general openly, one has to make sure that it's sustainable as well. And that is where RSEs have been contributing and have the expertise come in. So yeah, that I think is definitely one of the points where we started getting our funding in general. I see Carlos has his hands. Carlos.
Yeah, actually, just to add to that, so in the Netherlands, of course, we have a central Netherlands T-Science Center with a large pool of RSEs. But actually, because of open science and the open science movement, a lot of the universities, particularly the University of Delft, I think they were the first ones to have they also wanted to have it like, well, actually we also need to have more support for our researchers that is more embedded in the department, and they started to have also local research software engineering groups at the universities. And I think in the last 2 years, we've seen a few of these, what they call digital competence centers, that are more local groups based at the universities or based at the departments, that also have a few RSEs working a little bit closer to the researchers, and that provide this support for making the transition to open science at the departments. So yeah, so it's sort of like trickling down as well. Yeah.
Sandra?
Yeah, in the US, it's often still at the moment that the groups are forming at different universities and national labs when people are really, enthusiastic about it. And for example, yeah, Ian will talk in the afternoon. So his group grew from 2 people to I think now over 10 people in the last 2-3 years, because people or researcher made the experience that it's really valuable to have research software engineers, and then it was more that they talk with colleagues. And I think to have LAs and at universities, but also in their research network, who say, yeah, you really need people to do this, and then research software engineers, how valuable they are. I think when researchers talk about it who are not in this role themselves, that is very helpful. At least we have seen that at different universities and national labs, that because researchers trust their peers. And it's like, I think that is a big aspect. And national funding, yet we get some funding for workshops and to really distribute knowledge about the role as research software engineers, but really have positions or the funding. We get some feedback from funding bodies that they're positive about it, but there are no programs yet. So I hope that will take up more in the US.
Marion?
Yeah, so in the UK, for the last point, we're quite lucky that we're hugely supported by EPSSC. So they had set up the RSE fellowships, and I think those started even some of the RSE groups, so the first RSE fellows across the UK. And they support us also in terms of other RSE funding. So they have, for example, the Software for Research Communities call out now, or the Future of RSE's call. So they are really behind that, and that's where there can be found funding. And RSEs are also welcome to be co-Is or PIs on grants and things like that. So on the society level, so we've half a year ago, so we wrote our initiatives and events funding policy, and I've put the link in the chat, where we say, okay, people can apply for funding, for seed corn funding, for example, workshops or things like that, which they can use to form groups, for example. And shameless plug, on Friday, we have our regional RSE groups event where we invite people who are interested in forming regional groups to come along, and we'll have some lightning talks about existing groups and potential groups, and discuss how further groups can be formed. And again, then the society initiatives policy can be used to get some seed corn funding to get those groups off the ground.
Jano?
So the Nordic RSE is, of course, it is works in a collection of countries, so there's several different layers here. But on the whole Nordic level, there is no seed funding or no funding for RSE positions as such. But we do have have had the Code Refinery project, which has been mainly, of course, developing courses and providing education to researchers in these topics. But it has been very useful for kickstarting also the Nordic RSE. And then we have a few institutions on a local level, so institution level, that have their own RSE groups with some base funding, which is really probably the most stable way of doing it. We are working on a few angles for national and Nordic level funding as well for different institutions.
Okay, so to summarize, basically, I believe the most direct way of getting your seed funding could be getting it from an agency if you are lucky, in the sense that your funding agency is providing some kind of RSE fellowship or some kind of is trying to establish some kind of RSE group in the first place. Another way could be to try and, to put it bluntly, kind of steal from other kind of cause like open science initiatives, where they need people who identifies as RSE and be there and promote the cause of RSE, and yeah, trying to do the job, but as an RSE. Then another way could be to try and convince agencies that funding is needed for training. So I think this is what the Nordic model was, where they convinced that training is required among in the new generation of researchers in general, and that helped them, as Jarno said, form the Nordic RSE community. And then again, as far as at institutional level is concerned, trying to convince them that along with specialists that they have in the different faculties, having a set of generalists who can provide them with the support in research software to form an institutional group at the university level or at the faculty level, that can be another idea to try and get funding to establish an RSE group or an RSE chapter in general at the larger scale. With that, I believe I will. I would like to couple two questions that were there, and this was regarding promoting, promoting the cause of RSE at other conferences in other communities, like the open science community and the HPC community. What are your thoughts on that? And has anyone found it useful to increase the cross-border? And when I say cross-border, I really mean cross-domain collaboration with other communities of practices. Sandra.
Yeah, so I think it's important to go to, the, let's say, overlapping communities. That is one way to reach out, and we discussed already. And I think at the beginning, Radovan was it who said, oh, it's hard to reach out and get the right people, or how do you get, something to know about your association? And to start with people who are already have quite some overlap is great. So we are going to conferences like supercomputing, like PERC, going to open science. But I think important is also, so that is often a welcoming community, and we get the BOFs or panels accepted, or we can present workshops. But I think the bigger challenge is to reach really the communities who are not naturally connected with us, but which would be important to reach, like the main researchers who do an RSE job, or the postdocs, and who don't know that we exist. And that is a really bigger challenge from my aspect. So to better connect with parallel communities, I think there are a couple of ways to go to the conferences, to suggest activities together. I think the other communities are the bigger challenge, and we don't have or at least not a really good solution yet to connect to them and get us better known.
Carlos?
Yeah, so one community which I found was really useful to go to more of a domain conference, I guess, was the Digital Humanities conference. So I think my background is in computer science, so I've never been to a humanities conference before until I went to the Digital Humanities conference 4 years ago, I think. And it was really, I think it was really useful from the RSE perspective to connect with the digital humanities perspective, because in this conference and in this community, there's a lot of people who are researchers in the humanities, and that have probably never heard about research software engineers. And actually, I think on that first conference, I thought, oh, actually, a lot of you are research software engineers, but you just don't know it. And it was really interesting to make connections with some of these people. And I think in the last DH conference 2 years ago, there was actually a session specifically about the role of RSEs within digital humanities, and I believe there were even a couple of papers produced about this intersection of the digital humanities and research software engineering. So I found it really really nice, really interesting to see how in this community the RSE movement is sort of like gaining traction and gaining more supporters. And I think that other conferences, such as I don't know, more like domain-specific conferences, start to have these research software engineering tracks in them. It's the way to grow the community a little bit further and closer to the researchers who may already be research software engineers if we look at what they're doing and what their activities are, but that maybe they don't self-identify as RSEs because they've never heard the term before. So I think that's a very useful thing to do, to try to approach these communities as well.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah, no.
To me, at least on the grassroots level, these are not all that separate groups of people. In fact, I think essentially the people I mostly see every day are in at least two of these three communities, and so they do overlap a lot. Maybe it is more of a problem in the larger scale. So on the Nordic RSE level, for example, then when you start to formalize it, it starts to sound, or they start to feel more separate. And then where it makes sense, which is for a lot of the teaching, for example, it does make sense to advertise it to all of these communities. I guess around here, the main problem is that there is no, on the similar scale, on the Nordic scale, there is no organizational structure for these separate communities. So that makes it a bit harder to connect. But these other communities are older than RSE here, so they are actually where we have advertised to build up the RSE community.
Radovan?
So this question, how can we better connect parallel communities? I think it's such a brilliant question. So I don't have an answer, but I just want to motivate why this is so important that we try. At least, so here in Norway, so we talked in the last question, we talked about funding and seed funding, and I see that RSE positions are typically embedded. So the funding comes from research groups and from research grants. But the HPC and open science community, they have central seed funding, which means that if we manage to connect these communities, and as Jano said, it's very often the same people, we can really also connect to the funding. So just practically, if I want funding for my RSE work, I really have to convince HPC community and open science community that our work is important for them also. So really, there's a clear motivation for why I think we need to try to do this.
True. Jan?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight, I also think that this is a great question, and I also agree with what Sandra said about that it's probably more important to get into these kind of domain-specific communities, which are not that parallel to what we are doing. But what I wanted to highlight is that even in the communities which are somehow parallel to us, I think not so many people might necessarily know about RSEs. I have just the example of the R community in mind, which is, I think the R community is doing quite similar things to what we are doing. And I think so far there was not so many people knowing about RSE. And now with Heidi giving some talk on the last International R Users Conference, and then having Heather giving some talk about the R community here on the September RSE conference, I think that's this gap is closing. But I could imagine that there might be some other communities out there which are doing quite similar things to what we are doing, but which have never heard about RSE.
So I think if I have to summarize, I would say that the challenge is to get the word out in terms of advertising that we are RSEs and that this is a concept that exists. And if you know about it, maybe you would also self-identify as an RSE, and then you are welcome to participate and further a cause. Make it more formal. I think there are three questions which I would pull together and put them together. And these are regarding the International RSE Day. So there's a question regarding, are there plans to have a big International RSE conference next year? And then there is how are conferences helping for RSEs to collaborate, and do we need an International RSE conference? And the third one is regarding what will happen on the International RSE days and what are various chapters planning? Will there be a joint event? So if anyone would like to go and answer all these three together because they are all on the same theme, you're more than welcome to. Matt?
Sure. I was just going to say, I think the silence somehow implies that we don't know the answer to that question. It's often been a point of discussion about how we organize events internationally, how much it makes sense to have one single large international conference, and how we should balance that against local conferences addressing local issues. So I think it's definitely something that we are open to discussion on. But unless anyone else has anything to say, I don't think I know what the answer is.
I can definitely add to the question, how would you solve the problem of time zones? Because I don't know many people who would be as brave as Sandra, waking up at 4 o'clock, or on the other hand, as nice as Heidi is participating at 9 o'clock in the evening. So yeah, Sandra, you have something to say.
Yeah, honestly, I wanted to say the same, like, the silence did show that we cannot really answer all three questions. But I can say about the US portion for the International Day, we are looking at the moment into having one or two keynotes and a panel, but really more an open discussion. And I think every national association is planning at the moment the same their program on the same day. And it will be recorded, and so that people can benefit from that. It's the same day, but maybe are not in the time zone that they can look at the recordings. For example, I like SeptembRSE, and I like Source. I think keeping something internationally would be great, where people are coming together and having something online where travel is not necessary. But I think that it needs really the feedback from the whole community. We probably should question, or ask the whole community whether this is of value, because I think also, and a lot of people feel probably the same, it would be nice to have again also face-to-face events and just have the possibility to network and connect with each other face-to-face. So having something internationally face-to-face is of course much more complicated, but keeping something online, ongoing, I loved, for my part, to hear this morning about all the different associations and the steps which are done, and I got ideas for the US. I think that is the goal of international collaboration.
Carlos?
Yeah, so I guess I just want to say I can only answer what we're doing in the Dutch RSE community. So for the International RSE Day, we're organizing the Research Software Engineering Roadshow event, which basically we want to have an event that is a networking event mostly for people in the Netherlands, that we can get to know who else is working on research software engineering at the different universities, at the different institutes, and that they can share a little bit their experience and have more of a celebration feeling of saying, yes, I'm so happy that I'm an RSE because then I get to play with all this cool technology. So that's a little bit the feeling that we want to promote, and it's mostly a networking event. So that's what we're organizing for the 14th. But that's it. It's quite low key.
Okay, I think this can quite nicely segue into one of the last questions, which I have not addressed, and this is, how do you decide on topics of your meetings and events? So, for example, how have you decided on the topics and topics of the meetings and events for the roadshow?
Well, so the roadshow, with the core team, we decided, okay, we want to organize something for the International Day, and we want to make it like a celebration of RSEs. And we have in our other meetups in which we can discuss about Python and notebooks and something more engineering. And this one is like, okay, let's just make an event that is mostly networking, that is mostly about who's an RSE, why should you self-identify as an RSE, and why being an RSE is one of the coolest things you can do in your life. And we want to share this feeling, so that's why we said let's just make it about the pride of being an RSE, the why I want to be an RSE, and why it's so much fun and so much gives you so much energy. And we really wanted to have this vibe of having like energy of being an RSE and saying, yeah, I like my job.
I definitely wanted to be an RSE because I want to call myself cool. But yeah, Heidi.
Thanks. I just wanted to share an idea that we implemented a couple of years ago now, around deciding on topics for meetings and events. We actually went with the unconference idea. So the attendees subscribe to attend, and then at the beginning of the day, we asked them what they wanted to get out of the session. We tried to group them into topics, and then we asked people to vote on what they wanted to do that day. And that actually, there was a lot of buy-in on the events and topics there, and we got quite a lot out of that day. So just wanted to bring that up as one way of potentially deciding on topics and meetings and events is, again, to have it community driven.
I think that's a brilliant idea, quite democratic. So yeah, I see that there's a question regarding what the RSEs would accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years, but I think I will not address this because this is a topic of a whole another discussion that is next Tuesday, I believe, and that is RSE 2031. What do you see? How do you see the RSE ecosystem in next 10 years? And I would delegate the entire question to that panel next week. And with that, I would open the floor for closing discussions or closing remarks from everyone.
It was great seeing everyone and hearing that so many things are going on, and that take some of the ideas or some of the. I love the vibe around, for example, the Dutch, like being proud to be an RSE. We have to do something like that. I like that. Yeah, it was great seeing you all and getting ideas how to continue an international and a US community.
Yeah, likewise. I think it's been a really, really great discussion. And I just want to thank particularly Sandra and Heidi for being up very early and late and making the time zones work. I think it illustrates one of the issues with doing these things internationally is trying to make sure that we can make sure we're accommodating everyone. And it's a challenge that we are going to continue to face, I think. So just want to reiterate, thank you everyone for making time for the session, I think.
It's been a wonderful event to be a part of, and it's great to see how much activity and how much interest there is, and also the similarities between the challenges that we're having and how you actually describe the role, how we try to formalize it, and how we try to keep the energy there as well, because for a lot of us, this is not our day job. So it's been wonderful to get that energy again and to know that this is happening worldwide.
If I may jump in, likewise, I think it's been really interesting session. Really nice to see what's happening around the globe, how we all share some of the same struggles, some of the same challenges. And yeah, how I think the nice thing is that to see that there's everybody's interested in finding solutions together. So it's really nice session. Thank you.
And it's very motivating, very inspiring. Also, thanks to all. And I also wanted to thank the attendees for great questions. So this was really super interesting. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I also have to say, so these kind of international exchanges, I think they're extremely valuable because, I mean, we are facing similar questions. We are probably on different stages in this process, but we can learn a lot from each other, I think. And it's also great to see that also these kind of international activities are more intensified, I think, now with the International RSE Day and the International RSE Council. I think that are valuable steps, and I'm glad that they are taken.
Yeah, if I may propose a closing idea that we should have a working group of some sort that could discuss about job descriptions and job progression and the commonalities of roles, as well as if it is the de facto international job board, the UK Society's job board, maybe promoted as such more formally. Make it international, make it big, and bring together everyone. Of course, the working so this is a suggestion in the chat. The working group could be formed in the RSE Council, and I think if Radovan is here from the council, you can take back the idea of the suggestion that we can have a working group, and then everyone can participate on, if not having a formal set template for what an RSE is, then at least having a few job descriptions, maybe domain dependent, seniority dependent, experience dependent, of what the job descriptions could look like. And as long as they are international in some sense, people who are trying to progress in the career, even if they're moving continents, it's very helpful for them, because then they can say, I have already been in such a role, and then I would like to move into that kind of role. So definitely something to think about. Yeah. And with that, I would like to thank everyone for participating and for being such an excellent panel, for answering all the questions from the audience so patiently. And I would also like to thank Sandra and Gareth particularly for helping through the organization of this, the worldwide. For the organization of the first session. We will see you again. Hopefully, everyone is welcome to join again as panelists, and we will have some new panelists at 2 o'clock UK time, 1 o'clock the Universal Standard Time, and see you all.
Thanks, Shashank. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.